Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. You are tuned into MX, the Master Series, hosted by Logitech. And for that, I'd like to welcome back, after a pretty lengthy absence, I was beginning to think he didn't like me anymore, Dan Sigmund.
It's great to be here, Derek, and nothing personal. Just, we had some other things to do.
You guys are busy.
Yeah.
That's good. And look, I'm going to throw it out there just to start. If you guys haven't noticed anything different, yes, I have a beanie on. Now, full Logitech setup. I told these guys, I'm like, I love your products. This is unsolicited. I'm not sponsored. They're not telling me to say this. I am a big fan of the products. Dan is going to show you why, but I'm coming to you right now from the Brio, and the lights are Logitech. The accents are Logitech. Unfortunately, they don't make faces. The mustache is probably a little janky, but Dan, I'm going to let you do your thing, and I'm going to remind all of our viewers, if you guys do have any questions, product-wise, workflow-wise, we're here to discuss it all. So get into the YouTube chat if you guys do have any questions. I'm going to let Dan take it away, and I'll be back in a little bit for some convo and some Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Derek. And, like Derek said, we have a full ecosystem that we're going to be taking a look at today. I've just shared my screen into Options Plus, which is our software that really houses just about everything you can need with our products. For Logitech, MX is really designed for creative professionals and hobbyists to unlock their creativity and potential. We always talk about you want an easy flow. You don't want your computer accessories or your computer itself to be prohibiting you from getting into that creative space that you want. And so we want tools that are as easy as possible, as customizable as possible, and really just break the whole process as easy as possible for you. Now, before I really jump into any product, I did want to quickly mention that MX is really what got this relationship with B&H started. We've talked about gaming in the past, we've talked about streaming in the past, but before we really had a huge product assortment at B&H, we took a look at what you guys were buying and what, the B&H customer was buying. And there's a lot of really high-end mice, a lot of really high-end computer peripherals. And we went, maybe we should introduce MX. Maybe we should really get our foot in the door. And MX is really what kicked off everything. Now we carry the whole product assortment basically at B&H, both in store and online. But it all really started with MX. It all really started with you guys taking a step back and going, yeah, we need these tools and we need something that's going to help unleash our own creativity. So for that, thank you all. But today I kind of figured we go through a lot of different products of the lineup. That way, if there's something that you haven't seen before, or if there's something that you didn't know you could do with your product, hopefully today we'll kind of answer those questions. And like Derek said, feel free to throw some questions in as I go through. But I'm going to kick things off with the MX Brio. And this might look a little weird because you're seeing my camera view here as well as my actual camera view. But what's really nice about MX Brio, this is our newest webcam, and you can control everything about it in the same software as your mouse and keyboard. So instead of needing a totally separate, piece of software open on your computer to make these adjustments, you can do it in the same place, only one software. Now, obviously, of course, you can do quick things like field of view. I usually have it as a 65 degree, but it can go up to 90 degree if you want that wider angle shot. But in terms of like quicker features, exposure is really great for just kind of a quick fix. There's a ton of things in the image settings, so you can even go pretty crazy with it. I have a pretty neutral temperature, but you can go pretty extreme in either direction, so you can really kind of mess with it the way that you want to. I find for me this typically tends to be the best settings, but again, the best part is you can make it your own, and there's nothing really like having a webcam, so you don't have to plug in your high-end expensive camera just to have a quick Zoom call with somebody just to show people things. Speaking of showing things though, one of the great features of this webcam is if you tilt it forward, we have a thing called show mode, which will rotate the camera angle and show whatever's on your desk. So if you're drawing something, or if you have a quick thing you want to show somebody, all you have to do is flip it forward and do that. So that's MX Brio. Again, it's our newest webcam. Really great to have something in the ecosystem. But I know what you guys know Logitech for. It's mice and keyboards. We have to jump into the MX Master 3S. I mean, this product is easily one of our most successful products. It's easily one of the highest well-known regarded products in the creative space, and there's a reason for that, right? It's all about customization, and it's all about the ergonomics of it, and it's all about kind of the ease of use. Obviously if you're looking at this and you're like, Daniel, this is way too many buttons, it's too big for me, things like that, we do have an MX Anywhere. This is the 3S version right here. This is a lot more portable, easier to take around. You can do a lot of similar things with it in terms of being able to have this customization here, but it is missing a couple features that I'll point out. I mean, number one, of course, is this horizontal scroll wheel here. It seems like such a small thing, right? It's just another scroll wheel. But I'm telling you, when I don't have this mouse and I use another mouse, it's the first thing I'm looking for, especially if you're someone who's in Premiere all the time. Having that side wheel to go through the timeline is a game changer. But there's so much more than that. A lot of people don't know there's a button here on this mouse, and this is usually used for gesture control. So if you just push the button once, that can be a feature. But if you hold it and move the mouse in a different direction, those can be additional features that you can set. So here, right now, we just have it to switch between desktops. I have it for mission control, things like that. But what you can do is you can change any of these at any time to be additional features. Now, the best part about MX is we have this for the global settings. So this is going to be almost any app that you're in, but you can also jump into each application individually. So if I jump over again to Premiere, suddenly all these features have changed to be Premiere specific instead of needing something, only one time over here or trying to make something that's global settings work in Premiere. You can set it specifically to Premiere. We have access to Adobe's API for a lot of their programs, so it's able to detect certain things from Adobe directly into the software. So you don't have to make the same thing for all products or for all software. You can instead go in and choose exactly what you want. But again, this gestures button can be a pretty big game changer for folks. I know it's kind of a missing feature for a lot of people when they don't really think about it. But once you have all that power at your mouse, all that power just in something you're already using, it's really a game changer. Let's say I want to even have the razor tool, right? So now the gesture button is that if I'm using that all the time. Let's say I want to change specific things. I don't want Windows navigation anymore. I actually want this to be for panning. So now we have different things that you can control with the pan and the gestures like that. So really a ton of different flexibility here depending on what you want to do with the mouse. And of course, we have a ton here in terms of like your point scroll speed. The Master 3S now goes all the way up to 8K DPI, which if you're not a gamer, that probably sounds crazy. If you are a gamer, you're probably used to those speeds. But the reality is we wanted that in a more productivity focused mouse because it's better to have that control as screen resolution gets bigger and bigger, right? If you're using a studio display that's 6K or an 8K monitor or anything like that, you want as much DPI in your mouse as possible so that you're not dragging your mouse across the whole screen. So it goes up to 8K. I usually have it around the 1000 mark. That seems to be the sweet spot for me and my monitor. But again, thumb wheel, scroll wheel, completely controllable. The scroll wheel is easily one of the most famous features of this mouse because you can control between two different modes. If you hit this middle button here down underneath the wheel, you can either have it be a smooth scroll, so you just flick it and it goes flying. I mean, literally thousands of lines of code or thousands of lines of your Word document go flying by in seconds. Or you can have it be more ratcheted, so you can feel each individual line as you're scrolling through the wheel. It's a really satisfying feel, and if you've never tried it out, I highly recommend going to B&H, playing around with it a little bit, seeing what you like about it. But that's a big feature of both this mouse as well as the MX Anywhere. Great, great scroll. So outside of the mice, though, of course, we have keyboards as well. I'm personally using the mechanical keyboard. There's also the Keys S, which is a slimmer, thin profile, more butterfly switch feel. I'd say a lot of people who work more in office environments tend to like that keyboard. Not quite as loud as the mechanical keys. I work from home. I like the mechanical keys, so that's what I have here. But just like the mouse, you have all this customization here for all these buttons that are highlighted. So what you can do is, again, in each application, you can change what each of these buttons will do per application. If we click on something, again, we have all of the actions that you have for the keyboard itself, or you can kind of go through and do quick and easy things, right? Like just have copy, cut, delete, anything like that. That way you don't have to think about it. You don't even have to remember what basic shortcuts are. You can just drag and drop them into the keyboard itself. Now, this is probably seeming a little familiar for people who are used to our products, right? This isn't entirely new, but what is new is a few things up here that I want to talk about that really lead into our next product. So the first one is Smart Actions. With Smart Actions, what you get is the ability to have multiple features all in one button. So instead of just I hit this button and now it's copy or paste, it can be I open a web browser, I open specific web browser pages, I have multiple key presses, things like that. And if you're like I don't know what I even want with this. We actually offer a good number of templates here that you can just grab and get. So one of the easy ones is work mode here. Basically, when you click on this, it's going to have a quick way to just jump into Google Chrome. A couple seconds later, it'll open a new browser. It'll open your email. It'll open up Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and you can totally customize this. Let's say you don't need PowerPoint, you need the other programs. You can, easily kind of drag and drop this, cut them out, things like that. So we already have things in here that you can use if you don't want to make your own. But if you do want to make your own, all you have to do is go down to manage and go to create. So it's an if then system. If you click on if, basically it says, okay, I have this certain application, I have this certain device, things like that. I'm going to go with device. I'm going to go to my keyboard, and let's say I'm going to use my lock button on the keyboard, right? So if I press this, confirm the trigger, then I open up a whole new, world of possibilities. So of course you can open applications, you can have text pop in, you can have certain system applications work through. So like if you click on system and you want it to go to sleep or you want it to turn off or things like that, you can control that through the system here. For what I'm going to do though, is I'm actually going to have it open something specific. So I'm going to click on application. I'm going to click on Google Chrome so I can open up a web browser. So what you can do, so let's do a new browser tab like that, click confirm, and then I'm going to add an action. I'm going to type in, let's say, oh, I don't know, how about the B&H page for Logitech here? So you can click confirm. So now what happens is if I press the lock key and then instantly it'll open up Chrome and it'll open up the B&H Logitech page. That way I don't have to even think about it. I don't have to be like, oh, hey, how's our web page looking? How's the page looking on B&H? I just have to hit one button and it's right there. All you have to do is click save. You can name it. So let's call it B&HX Logitech, confirm. And now we have it here. If we go back to the keyboard itself, you'll see if we go down to that lock key, you'll see Smart Actions, B&H, and Logitech. So this opens up a whole new world. If you're kind of going through here and going, hey, the feature I really want isn't listed, go ahead and make your own. That's all with Smart Actions. The second thing is AI Prompt Builder. This is actually a pretty new feature. I have it usually set to my insert key because, to be honest, I don't know what else to use the insert key for most of the time. But I use the AI Prompt Builder as a pretty handy tool through my workday. It essentially opens up another window that accesses directly to ChatGPT. So if you have an OpenAI account, you can link it, or you don't have to even log in and you can use it. But if you're looking for quick summaries, if you want to rephrase any text, if you want to ask ChatGPT a question, you don't have to go to the website. You can just click insert, a little window will pop up, and you'll be able to do it all there. So it's a really nice, easy AI feature without having to really work for it. The last feature I want to talk about is Actions Ring. So this will really come into play with the next product we're about to talk about, but this was launched pretty recently. And essentially what this does is wherever your mouse is, you will see this Actions Ring pop up once you activate it. What this does is instead of having to need, let's say, 8 more shortcuts on your keyboard or 8 more shortcuts on your mouse, you hit this key and all these options will pop up. So again, I'm in my sort of global settings default, no apps activated. But if I jump to Premiere, now we have Premiere actions all at my fingertip. This will actually follow wherever your mouse is, so you don't have to hit it and then look for another window on your screen. If your mouse is hovering over something specifically, you hit that Actions Ring button, you'll see all this rings right there. Within each one, let's say again, we're in Premiere, it's really easy to customize. So let's say I don't want it to be temperature anymore. You can actually go through here. We have all, again, this API access from Premiere and from Adobe. So you can click different things. Let's say I want to reset the HDR. I can drag that over, and now that's what that feature is. If any of these are things that are customizable in terms of up and down values, you can also just kind of hover your mouse over it and use that side scroll wheel of the MX Master to control it up and down, or to use this next product we're going to talk about to adjust it even further. But really easy. Instead of having to remember, okay, where is the tint window? How do I do it? Is the clip clicked on? Things like that. You just open up this, you just make your quick adjustments, and you move on. You don't even have to have the window open to see that you're making the change. You'll see it through the preview of the video that it's working. So again, this works great with a ton of Adobe software. If you want to jump into like Photoshop or something like that, again, you can customize all these things. Or even if you have things like Zoom, you can make different ones with Zoom, have it, join a meeting, leave a meeting, things like that. Just more customization at your fingertips. Now, I've been kind of leading the witness, and the keen eye among you have maybe seen it already. But the next product we're going to talk about is, of course, the MX Creative Console. This came out late last year and has been a huge success, especially at B&H. If you are near B&H, or I'm sorry, if you are near B&H itself, you should definitely swing by and check it out. We have it on display there. But this product really takes everything that people know and love about the customization of the mice and keyboards and basically puts it on steroids. It's a whole new world of possibility. So again, I've been using Premiere as my example here. Let's jump over to Premiere. You now have a full keypad where you can control 9 different LED buttons for what you want to do. So let's say I want, easy functions, right? Like just hitting save or importing a file. You don't have to remember what the shortcut is. You don't have to remember, okay, which window browser do I have to find it? That's always my biggest problem is like, I know what I want to do, but I don't remember where it is. And I usually type in the help bar, like, where is this feature? Not here. With here, all you have to do is just put it on to the Creative Console itself under the keypad, and then the button's there and you can control it. Again, we have all these features here on the right that you can just drag and drop. But let's say you don't even want a Premiere function while you're in Premiere. You can actually click on this all actions at the top here and have something system related. So let's say, you want something to toggle the mute or toggle the volume, things like that. Really easy. All you have to do is drag and drop it. So let's say I'm going to get rid of clip volume, make this my toggle mute. We now have that there. So even though I'm in the Premiere presets, I can still have system actions entirely or open other applications, things like that. Let's say I'm looking at this and I go, hey, all my other Premiere icons are this kind of bluish color. I don't like that this is now black. All of this is customizable. So even though it auto-loaded this, we don't have to keep it that way. If you click on the little icon right there, you can click on edit icon, and then this opens up a ton of variety of what you can do. So we have a number of default icons that you can click on. So let's say I want this kind of circle view, or maybe this because I'm toggling my mute. That's really easy to do. You can also upload your own image if you want that as the icon instead. But then, of course, the thing I didn't like about was the color. You can click on background. You have the full color wheel here, or if you have a specific hex code, you're exactly what colors you like and what branding you like, you can just type it in. Or I can just jump in. Let's say I want it to be kind of this blue color. There we go. Again, the icon can be changed too. So let's say I want this icon to be more like a pinkish red. There we go. And then the text itself, you can either have it there, you can hide it, you can change the font size. So let's say I want it really big, or if I want it really small. All of that is at your fingertips, all in an instant with the software and through Options Plus. Now, of course, I mentioned this works with a number of Adobe software. I have Premiere here, I have After Effects here, I have Lightroom here, I have Photoshop. If I jump into Photoshop, you'll see, again, things have changed. Jump back over to Photoshop over here. Now we have different things for Photoshop. If you want to change color settings, if you want to change image settings, if you want to change things about the layers, like it's all here. You don't have to remember what the shortcut is, or you don't have to find another website to figure it out or anything like that. It's all here because of the API access. Now with the keypad, you have multiple pages, right? So within Photoshop here, I've got 2 different pages, easy to use. But let's say I want to add more. That's a super easy thing to do. All you have to do is hit the plus. Now you have an entirely new page. I believe it goes up to 9 pages. So it's a ton of customization, 9 times 9, 81 different icons per program. So you can even switch into different programs, open up whole other things. You can even make folders in here and have it go even crazier. So let's say I'm in Photoshop, but I want to get back into Premiere, right? So I'm in medium volume here. Let's do open a new application, drag it over here. You can now click here to select it. So let's go down to Premiere, ignore everything else I've got going on here. Where's Premiere? There's Premiere. So you can click on Premiere. It automatically loads up the icon because it's something that's used to seeing in Options Plus. Again, you could change that if you want to, but now I can click save. So again, I'm in Photoshop mode, doing all my things in Photoshop, but the second I want to change to Premiere, I just go to my 3rd page of my keypad, click Premiere, and it opens the application. Super easy. Now, the other piece of the Creative Console is the dial pad. So that's this little guy right here. Very nice size, very easy to kind of drag around. Unlike the keypad, which is wired, this is wireless, so you can connect it over Bluetooth, or it can also connect to Logi Bolt, which is kind of our main receiver. You know, the mice work with it, the keyboards work with it. If you kind of already have a Logi Bolt receiver, super easy to just add this to it and kind of keep the ecosystem together on that one USB port. But if you don't want to use the Bolt, no problem. You just connect over Bluetooth. But just like the keypad, name of the game here is customization. So I'm actually going to jump again back to Premiere because that's where sort of I live usually in the Adobe ecosystem. With the dial pad, this big wheel right here is very contextual. You can even say it says contextual for jogging. So this, what will happen is if you're over your timeline and you kind of move the dial up or down, what it will do is jump in between different segments in your timeline. You know, move forward, move backwards. All you have to do is kind of cycle this. That way you're not on your keyboard, you know, mashing the left and right arrow keys or even using the side scroll on the MX Master. A lot of people find this a lot smoother to get through the timeline, get through different things. But it's really all about what are you currently working on. So let's say again, I want to change the tint. I'm using Smart Actions or Actions Ring or anything like that. You can use the wheel to bring that value up and down just super smoothly without needing anything else. So it's really all about what are you currently doing? Okay, this will help you go up, down, left, right, things like that. Speaking of dials, though, there's actually this little dial up here at the top. This is typically in Premiere used for zooming. So if you're zooming in and out of your timeline, it's super easy to do that without, again, needing a whole other keyboard shortcut or mashing on the keyboard to make that happen. It's really smooth. If we jumped over to like Photoshop or something like that, again, you can use it to zoom in and out on what you're working on with the picture. My general system is used for just system volume. So if you just want the volume to go up or down and you're not in Adobe software, it's really easy to just have that at your fingertips. Of course, there are four other buttons here as well. Typically, undo and redo is what most people have on these top two buttons. This bottom one you can set to whatever you want. So I could even click on it now. And let's say, I don't know, let's say we want to throw in an add crop right there. Done. Now that feature will do that within Premiere. But again, over here we have Actions Ring. We can jump over to that setting again for Premiere. Super easy to use. So that way, no matter where your mouse is, all you have to do is hit that one button and you get even more features instantly because you're using Actions Ring. So there's so many different places you can put your buttons and have different, you know, features, quick presets, quick options, things like that. You don't have to sit there and remember 800 different shortcuts or which window it is, which window it isn't, things like that. That's always the biggest barrier, especially for beginners. It's just, where is the item I'm looking for? Now we have all this here as like different presets. You can add different profiles for each one. We even have different ones that we recommend. So let's say you want to do like just kind of a lot of color correction. You can click this here. All you have to do is click the next arrow. We're going to leave it the same title, click confirm. So now when I go to Premiere, I can actually switch between different profiles. So I have my normal Premiere Pro profile, which again had zooming and the contextual jogging. If I jump over to the color one, for here, it's going to be pretty similar, but if you jump over to the keypad, that's where you'll start to see more focus on what you want to do exactly with the color profile. So it's just a little easy things to remember. If you're only going to do certain things, you don't need a ton of buttons. You can change the profile, but if you're working on a different project where you want all of it, you just jump right back in. And if you don't like the ones that we've created, that's totally fine. We have a whole marketplace where if you click that button, actually, I'm going to change my shared screen so you can see it really quick. But with this, within the Logi Marketplace, what you can do is find things for the apps that you have as well. So let's say, for example, Apple Music, you can actually download a preset for Apple Music. That way you can have custom keys specifically just for listening to music. Again, small use case, but it's nice to have the customization there. I'm also a big Ableton guy for music, so I have the presets there. It's really easy to just find things and download them. You can even download different icons, right? So let's say you don't like the default icons that are there. You can jump through here, install whatever you want. We have things for OBS, for Illustrator, for even Philips Hue, right? If you want to control your lights and your settings, you can download the icons there and also download the plugins. I believe it's down here. Yeah, Philips Hue Beta. Download that, control your lights through your Creative Console. And then, of course, as I mentioned, profiles. So let's say, you know, I didn't really like what I was seeing with Premiere Pro. I can kind of click here for view all for the different ones we have. These are additional ones that we can control and people can upload. So this one was not uploaded by Logitech. This is somebody else's, you know, custom profile that they made for Premiere. they uploaded it to the marketplace, and here we can see, all right, what did they do with the keypad? All right, they have some different colors working. They have a big delete key that's red. That's cool. You can see what they did for each thing. So with the wheel, they use change clip volume instead of zoom in and out. If you like that, cool, download the preset. And then still Actions Ring have even more customization here. So if you're someone and you're like, hey, I like certain things, what did they do with it? What is something they made work with it? They can jump back in, use the Logi Marketplace, find what they want. We're constantly uploading new things here, so it's really easy to find something new, something different if you're not liking what's coming with it. But with that being said, I'm going to jump back over to Options Plus. Derek, I know we sent you a sample. We let you kind of jump into things with Creative Console, as well as, the MX Master and keys and things like that. So kind of curious, like what have been some of your favorite moments with this, new hardware?
Definitely the customization. Like you said, I'm lazy and I like to be comfortable when I get into my workflow. So this right here, this has been it for me. I mean, everything's great, but I was explaining to you before we went live. Yes, I had to tell Dan before we went live. I'm like, if I do it on live, it's going to look so contrived. But no, I really have been able to get my workflow down to the point where it makes me actually want to work. And I think that for me is where the customization and the usability of everything comes in. If stuff is too difficult, options and bells and whistles aren't great if you have to jump through hoops to use them, or sometimes you just complicate the process. So I'm able to sit here and I literally can just load in my arrow keys. I have my star button for images that I want to star off. This is what I use when I do my image calling. And I have my magnification key right there. So that's basically my space bar for Adobe Bridge. Yes, I'm old school. I still use Bridge. You guys can all flame me online. But I can sit here and I can recline my chair and I need nothing else. And runs off little small, what is it, AAA batteries. The life of them is super long. I can turn this off and I can literally recline my chair. I don't need to be tethered and I can just tap, 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 go through my process. The other thing that stands out for me is I have two setups here. I have my personal setup over here. I have my work setup here. I can literally just tap a button and go from, I don't have to change what I'm doing. Wireless, boom. I have my keyboard on my lap. Hit one and I'm over here on my personal setup. Hit two, I'm over here. I even have my 7-year-old son. It's easy enough that he knows that when we hit three, that's for his iPad. So my son can now use the mouse. He can use the keyboard with his iPad, and I can use it with my work computer, my personal computer seamlessly. And then one thing I want to call out also is customization is great, but just having keys that feel nice. It took me a long time to get over my native keyboard. I was used to it. It's something that we really don't think about, but the nature of how the keys feel and when we're on our computers all day, it's the little nuances like that that really, really, really matter. The weight of this keyboard, it has a nice weight, a nice little tilt to it. It's not too heavy, but it sits and it grips onto my desk. The keys are just so nice. It's like the perfect height, the perfect tactile nature to them. And then back to the customization. One thing I hate when companies do is they customize it, but they customize it on their terms only, where it's like, hey, you can customize 3 keys out of 700, but you can only customize them the way that we want. So, for each one, it's like, hey, we'll give you 3 options. And usually none of them are like who would do that? I love full customization. It's kind of like, when you go into the world of phones and it's like, okay, there's one ecosystem of phones that is, pretty much, proprietary. And then there's another ecosystem of phones that coders, developers are more likely to use because it's like, hey, I can go in and if I know what I'm doing, I can go and really customize these things.
No, that's such a
This,
good point. I think we typically have pretty basic stuff, right? Like volume up, volume down. Every keyboard has that. So let's say you never touch it. To your point, you can go in here and do basically whatever you want. You can even set up macros to have 8 different keys go at once, things like that. So yeah, the coder community especially loves these keyboards because of that. If you're the kind of guy that's typing the same thing in the terminal every single day or anything like that,
Yes.
why have to type it out each time when your keyboard can just do it for you?
Yes, the macros. It's macros for me are like, look, it's a little more difficult and a little more work to set up initially. But once you get it set up, I mean, that's the whole point. It's a little more work one time. And then if I have to save hitting, like there's certain things in Photoshop. So Photoshop, to create when I create a new flat layer and it's Command Start Shift E, it's like, okay, sometimes it's like I'm sitting there and I'm like hitting it's just a pain. I'd rather just boom, one button and there. Like you explained, per you have your general settings, the global, and then per program. Like I go in and there's really 5 programs that I use all the time. So it's like for those 5 programs to be able to go in, and again, I'm not just relegated to a baseline where, hey, we're giving you a preset. I can go in there and I can go crazy with it. I was telling Dan before we went live that I kind of found it out by accident. And I wish I had Dan's presentation prior because it would have saved me a lot of going on YouTube and clicking links. I like to dig in, but I can go in and I can fully customize the buttons on the console. Like I can go in and I can change the size of the font, the size of the logo, where the logo is. I can have these things look completely wonky if I want to. It's really full customization. And I love it. My son loves it. And my son is able to use it. It's easy enough to where my son can go on here and he knows that. I don't know if you guys can see my screen back here. You guys are going to kill me for this, but boom, I have a button that just pulls my website up. You're over there pulling up the Logitech. Like, yeah, the Logitech, it's probably more useful. Mine is my website. But just to show, it's so easy. Everything. And I think even how you guys have it set up right out of the box, it's plug and play. And then I've already had the, Logi Plus app saved, even going from, and this is something that, again, you don't really initially think of until you have an issue with something. Usually you don't think of stuff until you have an issue with it. No issues with going from one computer to the other. Usually, especially on, even with the Mac system, it's like, it's a great ecosystem, but sometimes it's like, okay, it's on one computer and then it's over. It's like I just was playing around with stuff as you were doing it. I'm like, wait, hold on. You're showing me how to do stuff. So I pulled it up over on one computer and it's like, hey, we recognize another system. Would you like to give the ability to control it on anything in the same network? And so it's like just the way that the ecosystem works together and it does it in such a seamless way. I really, I can't tell people enough. Like it's good if you're the simple type, because it just works. If you're not going to use any of the customization, that's great. It's better than my native. But if you are the customization type, if you are the person for any creative, I honestly don't see how I can go back to my other workflow without it. It just saves me so much time. I don't have time. That's the one thing. I need to buy time. And if I don't have to be tethered to a mouse, to a keyboard, I got this. And it's just so good, man. I honestly can't stand it enough.
No, one thing I was even going to mention in terms of just like the ease of setup, the first time I ever plugged it in, all of these popped up right away because it basically detects what programs you have on your computer. Went, oh yeah, we have a preset for Lightroom, we have a preset for Premiere, got it, loaded. Now, even Ableton I found funny because leading up to launch, everyone was telling me Adobe, 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 Adobe. I plugged it in and here's all the stuff for Ableton. Like right there.
Wow.
I didn't even know I was going to get that. And I work for Logitech. So I think what it kind of highlights is we're able to add more at any time, right? Between the marketplace, between, all these different things we can do with these APIs and with the system level and things like that. Let's say Microsoft, as an example, they have that new Copilot key, and that's the new thing on all their keyboards and stuff like that. That's easy. You just have to add a quick thing over here. It says Copilot, throw it into the Creative Console, and now you have it. So we didn't make that with that in mind, but it's such an easy thing to add later through the software. So you're never going to be behind the curve as things change. You have it day one because it's just a system access. It's just a quick thing that you have in here, drag and drop. There you go. So I love your point about just like you can go so deep with it. And as Adobe makes more things, as we expand our relationship with Adobe, as we expand it with other companies, things like that, like there's no limit here. You know, you can just keep
Yeah.
going. As long as it's something you could type, for sure you're there. And then if we have that API access, even better.
I haven't, I actually, I'm glad you bring that up because I haven't, hasn't been anything that I wanted to do because I wanted, look, I'm not, again, I'm not on the payroll. I want to break this stuff. I want to crack the code. I want to get in there. I want to stump the software. I want to stump the hardware. I want to see if there's something like, hey, you know, this was great, but it couldn't do this. There was nothing that I tried to do that obviously that's within my workflow. You know, like I'm not going to try to, hey, can you do jump through hoops and cook me a grilled cheese? Obviously, but everything I tried to do, I wasn't hit with a limitation. I was like, wow, I can make this work. And again, there's certain things where it's like not everything, you know, sometimes I just need two buttons and that's it. I don't need, and that's another thing too. You don't need to use the full, you know, and I think some people get confused by that concept that if it has five options or five customizable buttons or dials, if I don't need to use all five for everything, the product is no. It's
Yeah.
like it's great. Sometimes I don't need. Sometimes there was you know one of my programs I was like, you know what, for this program, I just need two. I do two things. That's it. I need two hotkeys and I can customize it and I'm good with that. It's really just the length of the ability to customize that really stands out for me. And it wasn't buggy. That's another thing that I got to call out because the more complicated you get, the more intricate software is, especially playing with hardware. With this kind of ecosystem for it, and I've been using the Logitech ecosystem a couple years now. And I'm on the, you know, I have like the G app and the Logi Plus. Neither are buggy. I'm not having to restart. I'm not, you know, I'm not having issues with the software linking. Bluetooth stuff, it just by nature, Bluetooth is one of those things where it's like, you know, hey, if you have it, we link up so many different products to one console and one computer, or to this, multiple. Including the iPad, I have a 3-computer setup essentially. It doesn't cross wires, and I don't end up like, hey, you know, with other programs like I've used, you know, with like when I go through Spotify and I don't go through none of my Logitech stuff. It's like, okay, well, my Bluetooth headphones are linked to my computer, but then if I try to go through my phone, signal, I think you get where I'm trying to go with this. The signals get crossed. I haven't had any of that. And I think that speaks to just really the soundness of the ecosystem, software wise and hardware wise.
No, I mean, even to that point, like again, I use my Master 3S at home all the time, but I use the Anywhere 3S the second I leave my house. And at no point am I opening my laptop and going, okay, I got to go to settings, I got to open
Yes.
options plus, I got to do this. No, I just turn on the mouse and it works. I turn off that one, it's not there anymore. Like that's all you have to do. It's just literally just a switch on the bottom. You flick it, it's on. That's it. So it's such an easy way to like jump between different ecosystems. Great way to jump between on the go and at home. You know, of course I could bring this mouse if I wanted to. It's just, you know, I like kind of having something smaller, portable in my backpack, but really easy to jump between. Or to your point, totally different computer. You know, any of these devices can be on 3 different devices linked at the same time. So whether it's your phone, your iPad, a PC, Mac, all that stuff, super easy. You just hit a button and you're in the next one. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And even if you have to repair. So I started playing around with the keyboard at the office. And then instantly when I came home, it was like, okay, I got 3 devices here. Bye bye office. You know, this linking it up to all 3 of these. Even just to repair it wasn't a headache to wipe out that one. And sometimes even that's a problem. It's like I don't even have to go in and forget device and this and that. It's literally just a long hold on one. If I wanted to switch around, because I did this too, and this was one of the things that I wanted to test out. You know, I set my number one setup to was the office computer because I first tried out the gear there. I came home, and when I paired it to my home computer without thinking, I'm like, oh, now it's gonna, you know, my home computer's it's gonna be 2 because the one slot is already taken. So I had to then go in and remove and repair. it's as easy as just holding down the one, and it once I hold it down, Bluetooth turns on, and it, you know, the pairing mode turns on. It's so easy to do everything. And huge shout out to Jay for sending me those links. I didn't even need. I honestly, I'm like, let me see what. I always like to see if I can, you know, if I can figure it out, because I think that speaks loudly too. Because the internet can be a labyrinth of information. There's so much of it out there, but sometimes you can get caught in a rabbit hole and it doesn't really help you out. So I like to try to figure it out, and that's probably out of everything, that's the greatest asset to the ecosystem, is that plug and play. You can figure it out on your own. You can sit there and play around with it for a little. You may miss some things. Like I didn't know about the gesture button. I didn't know I can hold it down and drag. You taught me something today, Dan. But
That's the goal, right?
that's the goal, yeah, right? If I didn't learn anything today, I would have been like, man, it's too easy. But no, it's great, great ecosystem, great product. I know we did have a question creep in here. I have the MX Ergo trackball, and now I see there's an S version. What's the difference?
Great question. Yeah, that just came out a couple months ago. Very similar progression as with the MX Master 3S and the Anywhere 3S compared to the threes of each one. There's really two things to call out. One is the clicks themselves. So the S version kind of stands for silent for the mice. So the clicks themselves are 90% quieter than the original version. So instead of clicking in and your whole office mates are going like, what are they doing over there? Hearing the click, 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 it's a lot quieter, but you still get that smooth tactile feel and kind of get that, you clicked it, even though it's a lot quieter, you still get that feel. So that's number one. Number two is Logi Bolt. So the original version of all these mice used unifying, which was the old receiver. Now we have Logi Bolt. Long story short, it's more secure. It can hold more devices. It's just overall better compared to unifying. So if you don't want to use Bluetooth to connect a bunch of different devices, you can use Bolt. To Derek's point earlier about switching between different computers, if you don't want to set up all the Bluetooth pairing between 8 different computers, you can connect everything to a Bolt receiver and then move that Bolt receiver from computer to computer, automatically load every mouse keyboard you have connected to it right there. And then same thing with the dial pad, things like that. So it's a kind of another way of looking at multiple device connectivity.
Wait, what? Damn, I missed that. I knew,
Yeah, Bolt's
and it's so
powerful.
funny. Visual modulations. Thank you for asking that, because I actually was going to be. I'm like, before I get, let Dan go, I got to ask about the bolt, because I was like, I know I'm missing something, and I'm miss. Okay, that makes it so much easier when you explain it like that. Okay, because I have it plugged in, and I did notice when I go into the Logi Plus that one of my things is connected to the bolt. I did connect because I was playing around with it. I'm like, let me see what it does, and
Yeah.
I understood the security aspect of it. But wow, I didn't know. Okay, so you can just kind of pair stuff to that, and then
Exactly.
that's
If you go to
awesome.
this like add device here,
That's
I
okay.
had the receiver connected. You can connect up to 6 different, mice, keyboards, dial pads, stuff like that, move it through. If you still have unifying, it still works, right? Like you can still
Mhm.
connect different devices to it. You just have more flexibility, more products, things like that. And then of course, if you have like, one of our spotlight remotes or the receiver for presenters, stuff like that, that's all through here too. But Bluetooth and Bolt are really the two big ones these days, I would say. And then if you can't remember, did I connect via Bluetooth or Bolt? It tells you underneath the device you're connected via Bluetooth or you're connected via USB cable, things like that. So you'll know exactly how you had it paired. You don't have to remember what you did.
Wonderful. And I do want to point out before I forget as well, webcam. Webcams are a sticky, sore subject for me, for a lot of people. I didn't want to lob up Logitech a beach ball and hand it a spiked bat and hit it out of the park. I wanted to put it through the paces. I said, got a professional program here. I always picky about my lighting. I'm picky about my setup. I want to look good on camera because I need all help I can get. The camera customization, webcams, and normally it's like you got to go super, super, super expensive, high end to the length of the customization, the latitude you're able to do. I was like, I don't want to change my setup. That was my goal going into this. I'm not changing my setup. I'm not going to have my accent lights blown out. Logitech Litra beams, by the way, really great. I'm also not going to compromise on my key lighting. I was like, I want to have it look native. I want to have it look like me, like my setup. there's so much I'm able to do latitude wise and go in. And the goal was to not have to change my lights, to not have to change the color temperature of my lights. I wanted to set my lights. I wanted to go in. And again, I was able to go in, save a preset, and I have an event space, two key light preset setup right down there. And it's like I go in, create a preset, and then take it exactly what I need to do. Now, straight out of the box, again, it's going to work. But one of the things that we run into with webcams is most webcams are just set to, they shoot wide and they don't really meter. Or if you have a complicated light setup, if I have one light, it's really just, it's going to meter that light. If I have ambient light spilling in, how many people watching right now have been completely blown out or underexposed on their work meeting? And as somebody who sits in meetings with top creatives in the industry, executives in the industry, I can't tell you how many times people talk about just the lighting. Hey, your setup looks great. How are you lighting yourself? What are you doing? It makes a difference and people notice that. So being able to customize and get exactly what I want in the creative industry, we don't want to compromise. It's extra important for us. So I wanted to call that out because if I was able, to dial this thing in, and I'm talking like dial it in, like I think my light looks really, really good right now. My picture looks good. And I don't think I've ever said that about a webcam, to be honest.
No, they really knocked it out of the park with this webcam. I mean, it's still like you look at our previous one, you're like, oh, well, that one's 4K also. What's the difference? We have a totally new sensor in here. And as all you photo guys know, like, yeah, 4K can mean anything, right? Like 4K, but shot on what? And so,
Yes.
with this webcam, the sensor is so much better than the last one. We've had a number of people who, to your point, they plug it in, they do nothing, and instantly I'm like, wow, what did you do to the space? What did you do to your lighting or whatever? They're like, I just plugged in a webcam and that's all they did. And even to your point about the lights, like I don't have a Lytro plugged in currently, but that also works in Options Plus. That also works here where you can say, okay, I turned on my webcam because I'm in a meeting. The light just instantly turns on. You didn't have to press anything. So we have all that kind of features where it's smart, it knows what you're trying to do, what you've set up. You don't have to fight with it or anything like that. So Lytra's awesome. We have, one that sits on the monitor. We have the ones that Derek's got in the back where you want kind of more fun accent lights. You can do it that way. So it's a really cool lineup. I definitely recommend it if you're more serious about the lighting and you don't want to buy massive key lights and massive, room lights and stuff like that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's going to be, in a movie studio or something like that. It's designed for these workspaces, right? But to your point, like you don't want to hop on a work call and you're a professional photographer, a professional videographer, something like that. If your webcam looks bad in that Zoom call, they're probably going to look at it and be like, "Oh, why are we working with this guy, if he can't even get this part right?" So I think it's more important than most people give it credit for. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And again, to you mentioned customization. Yes, my Lytras when I have my MacBook or my Mac Mini on, and I get a FaceTime call, it pulses. So it's like because I keep my ringer on silent, don't bother me, but I get a nice little light pulse. It's like my wife thinks it's crazy. She thinks it's possessed. She's like, your lights were just pulsing the other day. They're just going off. And I'm like, yeah, it's FaceTime call. When I get a FaceTime, when my sister FaceTimes my son, we know. I got a nice little visual when the office starts lighting up like Christmas. FaceTime's coming in. So, even that, it is a really great system. I saw another question come in from Keith Munger joining us. Keith, I didn't butcher the last name. Where is the action ring button on the MX Master 3S?
Great question. Like with anything out of the box, it's not there mostly because Action String came after the mouse came out. So, if you buy it today, you don't see an Action String here. But what you can do is once you've set it up, you just click on a button, decide, hey, I want to drag and drop it over to here, and then you have it. So I know a lot of people like it kind of on this back button. If you have, the dial pad, again, it's usually set to this button right here. But if you don't want it on here, you want it there, that's easy to set up. Or if you even want, smart actions, I know if you kind of create a new one, you can do things with the actions ring here too. So you can set up kind of triggers that way as well. So the short answer is it's however you want it to be set up. The long answer is it's all through the software, right? So you choose where you want it to be, how it works, when it's there, when it's not.
Awesome. I know Dan pulled up the website before, but I'll have my people drop a link into the YouTube live there for the Logitech. I always say this when you guys are on, you have one of the best stores in on the B&H website. You just literally type in Logitech. We'll drop an easy link for you, but if you go on the B&H website and just type in Logitech, it brings you right to that main page of the Logitech store. Everything you can see. I personally, again, the products speak for themselves. The ecosystem is top tier, and just the relationship between hardware and software. You guys, everything's always firmware updated. You're staying on top of everything. It's not even buggy to begin with, but you guys, I love the trust in the company that I know that they're going to stay on top of their game. And I don't even have to worry about getting to the point of having issues before they address something. It almost seems like you guys are just constantly keeping on top of that, which I love.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it too, right? It's like just because the hardware's out doesn't mean we're done. I think Creative Console is the best example of that. Day one, we only had certain programs with API access. And even since then, we've already added a couple. I feel like every month I go on our internal website and it's like, okay, now we have this, now we have that. And it's like, okay, when are we done with this product? The answer is never. The answer is really, we're going to keep going as long as there's something to go for. So I think that's something that's really important to people. It's the longevity of their hardware. You don't want to buy something and 6 months later you're like, oh my God, it's worthless now. It doesn't work at all or anything like that. Like you don't have to worry about that. We have, even from a like operating system level, we have great relationships with Microsoft and Apple. So, if they're about to come out with a crazy reinvention of their operating system or something like that, we're there day one. We know what's going on, things like that. So you don't have to worry about anything like that. Even when Apple, changed the silicon, right? Like to their own internal, it's not like the mice stopped working day one. We were able to work with them, make sure that things were compliant and everything. So, if you're the type of person that you're like, I want this keyboard to last 10 years or something like that, I have good news for you. As long as the battery inside doesn't die because you've been charging it so much, that's the only thing that could go wrong. But from an actual software perspective, we've got you covered.
I love that. And that's confidence inspiring too, again, for all of us techie people out there, because it is something that when Apple did switch everything over, a lot of that was the big thing. A lot of developers for apps, it was like, well, and Apple notoriously doesn't it's like, hey guys, we're switching everything tomorrow. Get on it. And that's a thing that's known in the industry. So staying on top and the relationships with other brands is always good. Dan, I want to thank you, man. This was great. Whole Logitech team, you guys are always great to work with. Wonderful products. There's one final feature that we're going to close out on today because this is so important. I can finally put the gaffer's tape down. Yes, it has a nice little twist shutter. So you know what? For us out there who are like, I just want to make sure that I'm not walking around shirtless in the Zoom call or whatever. We like a little shutter here. It is literally a twisting window right there. Look at that. It locked right back in. Settings on. There's no better way. We like to test things out on the fly here. So, Dan, huge thank you to you and the entire Logitech team. To all of our viewers out there, hey, check it out. If you guys do need a setup, wonderful setup. They have you covered. If you don't need a setup, you need an upgrade. I'm telling you that right now. So huge thank you on behalf of the Logitech team and the team here at the B&H Event Space. Another edition of the virtual event space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.